Question 911. The product owner accepted a scope of work with a stakeholder who expects a polished end-to-end experience at launch. Your team planned an MVP focused on core functionality with known rough edges. The stakeholder insists the MVP must look production-ready. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Facilitate a stakeholder alignment session to compare the agreed MVP definition, show trade-offs, time, quality, effort, and negotiate an approved path. Either expand the schedule resources for a production polish or keep MVP scope and set correct expectations with marketing and customers. In my opinion, this is the best option because creates shared understanding of what MVP means versus a production release, uses transparent trade-off discussion to align priorities and commitments, reduces risk of disappointed users, and rework by setting expectations or adjusting delivery parameters. Better than unilateral decisions that either overpromise or silently reduce quality. When definitions of MVP diverge, the project needs a rapid alignment workshop to make explicit trade-offs. Either invest to meet production standards or reset stakeholder expectations. Document the agreed outcome and update timelines or acceptance criteria to prevent downstream conflict. Question 912. Sales promises a set of integration features to a key client with a fixed go-live date, but those integrations were never scoped with engineering. The client expects delivery as sold. Your roadmap doesn't include those integrations. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Rapidly convene sales, engineering, product, and the client to document the promised features, perform an impact assessment, scope, schedules, cost, and negotiate either a revised commitment, phased delivery, or additional funding/resources. In my opinion, this is the best option because brings all parties together to convert verbal promises into actionable scope, provides clear evidence of impact enabling a fair decision, trade, fund, or delay, protects program credibility by making commitments explicit and manageable, better than reactive delivery attempts or unilateral cancellations. When sales commitments outpace engineering planning, immediate cross-functional alignment and an impact assessment are essential to present realistic options to the client and protect delivery credibility. Question 913. Executive leadership expects a dramatic revenue uplift from the release and measures success by top-line impact. The product team measures success by user engagement metrics and adoption. The engineering team is focused on stability and technical KPIs. These differing success metrics create conflicting prioritization. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Facilitate a goals alignment workshop with executives, product, and engineering to define a shared success framework, primary metric, leading indicators, acceptance thresholds, and map feature priorities to those agreed outcomes. In my opinion, this is the best option because establishes a single North Star that helps prioritize trade-offs across functions, defines leading indicators so teams can measure progress toward executive outcomes, reduces contradictory directives, and improves coordinated execution, better than allowing siloed metrics to dictate conflicting decisions. Different stakeholders measuring success differently will fracture prioritization. A joint alignment on primary metrics and leading indicators enables coherent decisions and helps everyone understand how their work contributes to the same outcome. Question 914. Marketing expects the product team to deliver internationalization for 5 markets at launch. Product prioritized only the US market for Phase 1. Marketing threatens to delay campaigns if localization isn't available. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Assess localization effort per market, propose a phased rollout, priority markets first, and collaborate with marketing to adjust campaign plans or provide localized messaging alternatives until additional markets are supported. In my opinion, this is the best option because produces a pragmatic, evidence-based plan, balancing capability and go-to-market needs, allows marketing to proceed strategically while managing customer expectations, reduces risk of poor quality localization impacting brand reputation, better than an all-or-nothing stance that either stalls marketing or delivers poor localization. When go-to-market and product priorities diverge, a phased rollout with coordinated campaign adjustments lets the organization capture value without overextending delivery capabilities. Question 9.15. A stakeholder expects extensive customization for their internal users as part of the standard product, while product strategy aims for a single configurable core. The stakeholder insists their request is non-negotiable. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Evaluate the requested customization's business value and maintenance cost. Present options, configurable versus custom build. Propose a supported path, e.g. paid customization, roadmap item, or configuration compromise, and document the agreed decision. In my opinion, this is the best option because turns a subjective demand into a quantified decision with clear trade-offs, protects product scalability by avoiding permanent forks without compensation, provides clear options so the stakeholder can choose the appropriate path, commercial or roadmap. Better than unilateral customization or endless negotiation. Customer-specific customization requires a business case approach, quantify value, cost, and maintenance impact, and offer clear commercial or roadmap-based pathways to avoid harming the product's overall health. Question 9.16. The CFO expects the project to reduce operational costs by 30% immediately after launch. The engineering estimates show savings will accrue gradually over several quarters. Leadership is pushing for immediate numbers. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Present a realistic benefits realization plan showing phased cost savings, immediate leading indicators you can deliver quickly, and proposed governance to track financial outcomes with timelines and milestones. In my opinion, this is the best option because sets realistic expectations linked to measurable milestones, provides short-term indicators to demonstrate progress toward the CFO's target, aligns finance and delivery on timing and accountable metrics. Better than promising immediate, unrealistic financial outcomes. Financial expectations must be grounded in a benefits realization plan that maps delivery activities to measurable cost outcomes. Early leading indicators help demonstrate progress while protecting credibility. Question 917. Customer support expects the release to remove a long-standing source of tickets. Marketing expects new features to drive adoption. The engineering team warns that fixing the ticket source will delay the new features. Both groups say their outcome is the priority. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Run a prioritized impact analysis comparing customer satisfaction benefit versus adoption uplift. Propose a combined plan, e.g., prioritize critical fixes that unblock adoption, schedule lower impact fixes later, and secure stakeholder agreement on trade-offs. In my opinion, this is the best option because uses data to compare competing outcomes and prioritize accordingly. Offers a compromise that protects customer experience while enabling marketing goals. Generates stakeholder buy-in through transparent trade-off decisions. Better than choosing one side arbitrarily. Competing stakeholder priorities require an evidence-based impact analysis and a negotiated plan that balances immediate customer pain with strategic adoption goals to maximize overall business value. Question 9118. A senior sponsor assumes that a requested feature will be trivial because a similar feature exists in another product. Engineers explain the underlying platforms are different and effort is substantial. The sponsor insists it should be quick. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Provide a concise technical briefing for the sponsor, comparing the two platforms, present a scoped estimate with assumptions, and propose alternatives, e.g., phased implementation, interim workaround, so the sponsor can decide with accurate expectations. In my opinion, this is the best option because educates the sponsor with factual differences and realistic estimates, converts assumptions into actionable options and clear timelines, prevents misinformed commitments that hurt delivery credibility. Better than accepting the sponsor's assumption or refusing engagement. Senior assumptions must be converted into shared understanding through a technical briefing, scoped estimates, and feasible alternatives, so leadership can make an informed decision without unrealistic expectations. Question 919. A stakeholder believes that launching a single vanity metric, e.g. sign-ups, will prove product success and insists all teams prioritize actions to spike this metric. Product research indicates sign-ups without onboarding will not retain users. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Present a metric hierarchy showing leading indicators, sign-ups versus retention drivers, onboarding, activation. Recommend a balanced plan that supports both acquisition and activation, and align incentives to the broader success metrics. In my opinion, this is the best option because educates stakeholders on meaningful metrics beyond vanity numbers, ensures work focuses on sustainable outcomes, acquisition plus retention, aligns teams on a holistic plan rather than short-term spikes, better than optimizing a single metric that doesn't translate to business value. Metric-driven alignment requires showing how leading indicators relate to durable business outcomes. A balanced acquisition plus activation plan avoids misleading wins and drives sustainable growth. Question 920. Senior stakeholders expect that a multi-team program will deliver a complex capability in 3 months. Program leads estimate 6 to 9 months. Pressure mounts to meet the shorter deadline. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Produce a detailed, evidence-based plan comparing the fast versus realistic timelines, resource needs, scope reductions, risks. Propose feasible acceleration options, additional budget, scope deferral, parallelization, and get stakeholder buy-in on the chosen approach. In my opinion, this is the best option because converts a timeline dispute into a decision supported by facts and options, clarifies what acceleration actually costs and which risks it introduces, enables leaders to choose trade-offs consciously rather than by pressure, better than accepting unrealistic deadlines or unilaterally extending timelines. When timeline expectations diverge at senior levels, the PM should present a clear, evidence-backed set of options. Accelerate with cost, reduce scope, or extend timeline, so leaders can choose informed trade-offs and accept accountability. Question 921. A product owner accepted a user story that says, generate monthly reports. Developers assumed PDF export, the analytics team assumed CSV. QA prepared tests for both. 2 days before sprint end, stakeholders argue about format and which KPIs must appear. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Hold an immediate triage with product analytics dev and QA to clarify the expected report format and KPI list. Update the acceptance criteria and decide whether both formats are required now or can be phased. In my opinion, this is the best option because resolves ambiguity through cross-functional alignment, updates acceptance criteria to prevent rework and incorrect deliverables, minimizes wasted testing and developer effort by creating a clear scope now, better than unilateral assumptions or partial deliveries that disappoint stakeholders. When stakeholders and teams have different assumptions, rapid cross-functional clarification and explicit acceptance criteria prevent rework and align delivery to business needs. Question 922. A UX mock shows an inline validation message for a form. Developers implemented client-side validation only. Business stakeholders expected server-side validation to enforce rules for integrations. Integration tests started failing in QA. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Convene product, UX, dev, and integration teams to document validation responsibilities, client versus server, update requirements and acceptance criteria, and schedule any server-side work prioritized by risk. In my opinion, this is the best option because clarifies functional responsibilities to avoid recurring integration failures, aligns UX intent with technical enforcement and test coverage, reduces risk of inconsistent behavior across clients and integrations. Better than ad hoc fixes that mask the root of the misunderstanding. Validation responsibilities must be explicit in requirements. Fixing behavior is important, but aligning teams and acceptance criteria prevents future mismatches. Question 923. A stakeholder described mobile support as a requirement. Engineering implemented a responsive web UI, while the mobile team assumed a native app was needed. Customers in UAT report unexpected UX issues. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Clarify the definition of mobile support with stakeholders, document whether responsive web or native apps are in scope, update acceptance criteria, and plan any additional work with clear priority. In my opinion, this is the best option because removes ambiguity between web responsiveness and native app expectations, prevents further rework and customer confusion by aligning scope, enables stakeholders to choose trade-offs, time versus native capability, knowingly, better than letting different teams ship incompatible solutions. Ambiguous terms like mobile support must be explicitly defined, responsive web versus native, and recorded in acceptance criteria so delivery matches stakeholder expectations. Question 924. During grooming, a user story lacks performance requirements. Dev assumed usual load. Stakeholders expected the feature to scale to 10 times normal usage for a marketing event. Load tests later reveal the feature fails under event traffic. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Pause deployments for that feature. Run a joint session to capture non-functional requirements, expected load, SLAs, add performance acceptance criteria, and prioritize necessary scaling work before the event. In my opinion, this is the best option because explicitly records non-functional expectations that materially affect design, reduces risk of failure during high-impact events, ensures performance work is prioritized and tested before exposure, better than assuming default capacity or addressing problems reactively. Non-functional requirements must be explicit. Capture performance SLAs early and test against them. Scaling is a short-term band-aid without requirements and targeted fixes. Question 925. A business stakeholder requested bulk user import but did not specify error handling rules for malformed rows. Developers implemented a best effort import that skips bad rows silently. After rollout, users complain that many records were lost. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Convene product, support, and dev to define explicit import behavior, validation rules, error reports, transactional versus partial commits, implement user-visible failure reporting, and run a remediation plan for lost records. In my opinion, this is the best option because clarifies expected behavior and user visibility into errors, prevents silent data loss and reduces support load, provides a remediation path to restore stakeholder trust, better than leaving silent failures unaddressed. Import flows must define validation and error handling, clarify requirements, surface errors to users, and remediate lost data to maintain trust. Question 926. A developer interprets real-time notifications as under 30 seconds. Product meant under 1 second for live trading use. This difference causes severe customer complaints in production. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Treat this as a requirements theatricality. Urgently align on the precise definition of real-time, update acceptance criteria to a measurable SLA, and schedule engineering changes prioritized by business impact. In my opinion, this is the best option because converts vague language into measurable, testable requirements, prevents ambiguity-driven production incidents, enables prioritization by true business criticality. Trading requires 1S, better than ad hoc fixes or post-facto justifications. Vague terms like real-time must be replaced with measurable SLAs. Urgent alignment and prioritized engineering work protect high-stakes use cases and customer trust. Question 927. During UAT, a business user complains the workflow requires too many manual steps. The team built it per the documented flow, but an earlier demo had shown an automated step the business expected. Traces show the demo feature was a prototype not captured in requirements. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Acknowledge the missing prototype to spec gap. Capture the intended automation as concrete requirements. Assess implementation effort and impact, and negotiate whether to include it in the current release or plan it as a prioritized follow-up. In my opinion, this is the best option because converts prototype assumptions into formal requirements, respects stakeholder expectations while enabling pragmatic planning, avoids finger-pointing by focusing on solutioning and prioritization. Better than forcing last-minute automation without scoping. Prototypes must be translated into formal requirements. When demo expectations differ from documented scope, capture the intended behavior, assess effort, and negotiate inclusion or deferment with stakeholders. Question 928. A set of user stories mention support EU customers, but the localization and legal requirements were not captured. Post-release, the product exposes non-compliant phrasing and date formats causing regulatory concern. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Immediately pause distribution in affected markets if required. Convene legal, product, and localization to define exact requirements, language, formatting, legal copy, remediate the issues, and incorporate localization acceptance criteria into future stories. In my opinion, this is the best option because protects the company from regulatory and user experience risks, ensures localization and legal needs are explicitly captured and tested, prevents recurrence by embedding requirements into acceptance checks. Better than retrofitting fixes without cross-functional validation. Global requirements must include localization and legal constraints. Capture them explicitly, remediate compliance issues promptly, and make localization part of acceptance criteria to avoid regulatory exposure. Question 929. Sales provided a customer with a configuration that appears to meet their needs. During delivery, it becomes clear a critical integration, single sign-on, was assumed to exist, though it was never specified. The customer's go-live depends on it. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Organize an urgent cross-functional alignment, sales, product, engineering, customer, to document the missing integration, estimate effort, propose short-term workarounds, and agree a plan, timeline, funding to deliver SSO for go-live. In my opinion, this is the best option because converts assumption-based promises into an explicit plan with accountability, preserves customer relationship by offering practical mitigations and timelines, protects delivery teams from unsurfaced scope creep and hidden risks, better than leaving the customer in uncertainty or unilateral commitments. When assumptions from sales differ from documented scope, rapidly align all parties, provide workarounds, and create a funded plan to deliver missing integrations to protect customer commitments. Question 930. During handover to operations, it becomes apparent that runbook expectations were not defined. Stakeholders expected automated failover. Ops expected manual intervention. A failure during early usage exposed downtime. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Initiate a post-incident alignment. Define operational requirements, failover SLAs, automation level, update requirements and acceptance criteria to include runbooks, and schedule automation work based on risk and priority. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures operational expectations are captured as explicit acceptance criteria, reduces downtime by making failover behavior deterministic and tested, aligns product, engineering, and operations on ownership and automation needs, better than ad hoc fixes that leave operations exposed. Operational behavior is a core requirement. Define runbook and failover SLAs up front, include them in acceptance criteria, and prioritize automa. Question 931. During sprint development, a developer realizes that the requirement for how to handle duplicate entries in a customer list was never defined. Some stakeholders want duplicates blocked, some want them merged automatically, and others prefer allowing them with warnings. QA is unable to proceed. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Hold an urgent clarification workshop with all relevant stakeholders to define the exact rules for duplicate handling, document the decision in acceptance criteria, and ensure Dev QA align before continuing. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures all stakeholders align on explicit business rules, prevents inconsistent behavior or rework caused by assumptions, converts missing requirements into clear testable criteria. Better than letting individual teams interpret the behavior independently. Missing rules must be clarified with stakeholders immediately. Aligning expectations, documenting behavior, and syncing Dev QA ensures robust delivery and reduces rework. Question 932. A new onboarding flow was developed, but nobody defined what should happen if the user exits halfway. Some suggest auto-saving progress, others expect the user to start from the beginning. Customers in UAT are confused by inconsistent behavior. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Hold a focused clarification session with product, UX, and QA to define expected behavior for partial onboarding, document it, and update implementation test cases before proceeding. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures a coherent user experience, prevents inconsistent flows caused by team-specific assumptions, establishes testable requirements for QA, better than patching UI behavior without clear direction. Missing UX rules must be clarified collaboratively. Documenting expected behavior ensures consistent implementation and smooth UAT. Question 3. An integration with a payment provider is nearly complete when the provider asks which currencies, refund rules, and settlement timelines the product expects. None of this was documented or discussed earlier. The release is scheduled for next week. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Meet with product, finance, and the payment provider to define currency support refund logic, and settlement behaviors, document these requirements, and adjust the integration testing before release. In my opinion, this is the best option because prevents financial misbehavior and compliance gaps, aligns technical implementation with business rules, ensures payment flows work as expected at launch. Better than implementing assumptions that impact revenue. Payment requirements are business critical. Clarifying rules with finance product prevents revenue and compliance issues. Question 934. A workflow for document approvals is built, but no escalation rules were defined. When managers don't respond, documents get stuck indefinitely. Support receives angry complaints from multiple teams. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Engage product and business stakeholders to define explicit escalation rules, timeouts, alternate approvers. Document them in requirements, and update workflow logic accordingly. In my opinion, this is the best option because creates predictable approval behavior, reduces operational delays and support load, aligns with governance policies, better than relying on inconsistent manual follow-up. Escalation logic must be defined explicitly. Clarifying and implementing rules ensures workflow reliability and reduces ticket volume. Question 935. A new dashboard is built, but stakeholders never specified the frequency of data refresh, real-time versus hourly versus daily. Developers defaulted to daily refresh. During demo, stakeholders complain the data is outdated. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Discuss with stakeholders to determine required refresh intervals, document them as non-functional requirements, reassess feasibility performance, and update the dashboard accordingly. In my opinion, this is the best option because converts vague expectations into concrete performance requirements, balances business need with system load and feasibility, prevents repeated complaints and mismatched expectations. Better than blindly increasing refresh frequency. Missing refresh frequency requirements must be clarified and documented. Balancing performance and business value ensures reliable dashboards. Question 936. A back-end team is ready to release a new API endpoint, but product never defined error response formats. Front-end developers cannot implement UI error messages. Customers may see inconsistent or unclear messages. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Facilitate a quick alignment session to define standardized API error formats, codes messages, update the API contract, and retest integration across front-end and back-end. In my opinion, this is the best option because standardized error responses improve UX and maintainability. Cross-team alignment avoids inconsistent consumer-side handling, ensures API contract clarity and testability, better than exposing customers to unclear errors. API error formats must be explicit. Clear contract definition ensures predictable integration and user-friendly messaging. Question 937. The team implemented a scheduling module, but the business never specified time zone handling. Customers in different regions now see incorrect appointment times. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Define time zone requirements with stakeholders, conversion rules, storage format, display format, document them clearly, update the implementation, and perform regression testing across regions. In my opinion, this is the best option because time zone handling is critical and must be explicitly defined, reduces customer-facing errors that impact business operations, ensures consistent cross-region behavior, better than patching issues without holistic rules. Time zone issues require clear business rules. Documenting, implementing, and testing standardized time behavior prevents ongoing user frustration. Question 938. A new notifications module supports email, but SMS behavior was never defined, even though stakeholders assumed SMS was included. Engineering is ready for release, but marketing refuses to proceed without SMS. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Clarify SMS requirements, templates, triggers, frequency limits, provider compliance rules with stakeholders. Document them, estimate impact, and negotiate whether SMS should be fast-tracked or phased into a later release. In my opinion, this is the best option because captures missing functional and compliance requirements, enables informed trade-off discussions with stakeholders, prevents rushed SMS implementation that could violate regulations, better than assuming SMS behavior or delaying without clarity. Missing SMS rules require explicit clarification. Capturing templates, regulatory constraints, and triggers enables prioritization, and prevents compliance risks. Question 939. During integration testing, an external vendor asks what retry back-off strategy your API expects. The requirement was never defined. The integration is failing intermittently due to rate limits. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Define retry back-off rules collaboratively with product, engineering, and the vendor. Update the API contract, adjust implementation and rate limit configs, and validate integration again. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures predictable integration behavior, prevents rate limit failures, and protects system stability. Makes contract expectations explicit for both parties. Better than guessing back-off values. Retry back-off logic must be defined contractually. Joint alignment prevents integration failures and ensures predictable resource usage. Question 940. An internal reporting tool was built assuming all teams use the same workflow statuses. After release, several departments report that their statuses are different and reports are incorrect. These variations were never captured as requirements. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Engage all departments to document their specific workflow statuses, define a common mapping or normalize statuses, update the reporting logic, and validate the reports with each team. In my opinion, this is the best option because captures real business variations rather than assuming uniformity. Normalizing or mapping statuses ensures accurate reporting, aligns cross-department expectations, and improves adoption. Better than forcing one-size-fits-all status logic. Capturing cross-team variations and normalizing them enables accurate reporting. Requirements must reflect actual business behavior, not assumptions. Question 941. A stakeholder keeps modifying requirements for a feature every 2 days. Developers are frustrated because work gets rewritten repeatedly and QA cannot finalize test cases. The stakeholder claims these changes are minor, but each change forces redesign. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Create a structured change intake process with clear impact assessment, align with the stakeholder on when changes will be locked for each sprint, and ensure all modifications are reviewed for scope, priority, and cost before acceptance. In my opinion, this is the best option because establishes controlled governance without blocking necessary changes, helps the stakeholder understand timing, cost, and impact, protects the team from constant churn and rework, better than reacting to changes ad hoc and destabilizing the sprint. Frequent requirement changes require controlled intake and timing alignment. A lightweight governance process prevents unnecessary churn while keeping stakeholders engaged. Clear timing for locking scope ensures predictable sprint execution. Question 942. Marketing introduces a new promotion that requires UI changes. Product updates the UI specs 3 times in a week, each time changing layout and messaging. The release team is worried the promotion will miss launch. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Facilitate a joint alignment session to finalize the promotion requirements, freeze UI changes until after launch, and document any enhancements as a follow-up release. In my opinion, this is the best option because creates clarity and avoids continuous churn, protects release timelines, ensures marketing and product agree on a stable MVP, better than allowing constant redesigns mid-implementation. A scope freeze is essential when changes are too frequent. Alignment ensures everyone agrees on what must be done versus what can wait, protecting release readiness. Question 943. A senior executive keeps adding quick improvements to an already approved feature. Teams feel pressured to accept the changes because of the executive's position, leading to slipping timelines. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Present a clear impact assessment for each new request, show schedule trade-offs, and ask the executive to prioritize explicitly which change should fit now versus later. In my opinion, this is the best option because respects the executive's needs while grounding decisions in facts, allows transparent prioritization instead of hidden pressure, protects the team from uncontrolled commitments, better than accepting everything blindly to avoid conflict. Executives appreciate transparent trade-offs. Showing clear impact empowers them to decide responsibly while protecting team capacity and timelines. Question 944. Midway through development, legal updates compliance rules that require changing half of the user-facing content. The team is worried about the effort and the risk of missing deadlines. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Meet with legal and product to identify mandatory versus optional text changes, prioritize mandatory items first, and adjust the release plan with agreed trade-offs. In my opinion, this is the best option because legally required content must be implemented early, separates mandatory compliance from nice-to-have wording, reduces scope to a manageable change set, better than treating all changes as equally important restillings. When compliance rules change, mandatory items must be prioritized quickly. Clear scoping and trade-offs ensure legal alignment without unnecessary chaos. Question 945. The PO keeps updating user stories after developers start coding them, saying the changes improve usability. Developers complain they never get a stable target. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Agree with the PO to lock stories once development begins, move new ideas into refinement for future sprints, and enforce a rule that mid-sprint changes require formal discussion and impact review. In my opinion, this is the best option because stabilizes sprint execution, ensures proper refinement before coding, introduces governance for mid-sprint scope changes, better than working with shifting targets every few days. A clear boundary around story lock-in maintains discipline. Mid-sprint changes must have cost-impact visibility while keeping innovation flowing into future sprints. Question 946. Engineering is halfway through development when the customer announces they want a new integration included in the same release. The contract does not mandate it, and adding it now will jeopardize the timeline. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Perform an impact analysis, present delivery implications to the customer, and negotiate whether to include the new integration now, defer it, or fund additional work, ensuring mutual agreement. In my opinion, this is the best option because balances customer needs with timeline realism, requires customer to make trade-off decisions, avoids scope creep driven by unilateral assumptions, better than accepting the change silently or rejecting it aggressively. Frequent or midstream customer changes require structured impact analysis and mutual negotiation. Transparency and clear trade-offs build trust and ensure responsible commitment. Question 947. Your team is finishing a major feature when the analytics department suddenly requests new tracking tags across several screens. These tags weren't planned and require significant dev and QA effort. The release window is tight. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Evaluate the tracking requirements with analytics. Determine which tags are essential for launch versus can be phased later, and adjust scope accordingly with stakeholder approval. In my opinion, this is the best option because identifies the critical versus non-critical tracking, reduces unnecessary scope pressure, protects release timelines while still supporting analytics needs, better than accepting all tags unfiltered. Tracking requests often come late, but not all tags are equally important. Prioritizing essential ones keeps releases on schedule while avoiding poor quality analytics data. Question 948. A government policy update impacts features under development. The policy is evolving week by week, and stakeholders keep revising requirements as new details emerge. The team is confused about what target to build toward. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Create a policy working group with legal, product, and engineering to track ongoing updates, define what parts of the policy are stable, and deliver iteratively against confirmed sections while deferring volatile requirements. In my opinion, this is the best option because stabilizes scope around confirmed policy elements, prevents rework from reacting to evolving interpretations, allows continuous progress while maintaining compliance, better than waiting indefinitely or building on unstable assumptions. Structured tracking and stable scope identification keep development moving while managing regulatory uncertainty. This prevents chaos and ensures compliance alignment. Question 949. User feedback reveals that customers want additional filtering options in a new feature. Product wants to incorporate the feedback immediately, even though the feature is in final QA. QA warns this will require a new full regression. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Discuss with product the impact on QA, determine if the filters are critical for launch, and either defer them to the next iteration or plan a controlled change with updated timelines. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures value-driven prioritization, avoids destabilizing the release deep into QA, enables product to consciously choose between speed and completeness, better than forcing last-minute changes without visibility. Near-release changes carry heavy testing implications. Managing them through impact analysis and prioritization ensures releases are stable and customer-informed. Question 950. During system integration, multiple downstream teams keep requesting additional fields in APIs. Each new request appears trivial, but combined they cause delays and confusion. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Establish an API change board with all consuming teams, collect field requests in batches, evaluate impact collectively, and update the API in scheduled cycles instead of continuous piecemeal changes. In my opinion, this is the best option because reduces churn by consolidating changes, provides transparency across all consumers, prevents constant rework and conflicting assumptions, better than reactive API modifications. API governance prevents uncontrolled scope creep. Batched evaluation ensures stable evolution without destabilizing dependent systems. Question 951. Your UX designer wants to simplify the checkout flow from 5 steps to 3 to reduce drop-offs. However, the business team insists on collecting additional user details for future marketing campaigns, which increases steps. Both teams push their priorities as critical. What should you do? Here's my and why. Facilitate a joint workshop to map user journey data. Determine which fields genuinely drive business value. Remove low-value fields, and agree on an optimal path that balances conversion and data needs. In my opinion, this is the best option because encourages data-driven decisions rather than opinions, eliminates unnecessary fields while retaining high-value ones, aligns both UX and business teams on shared goals, better than prioritizing one side and creating friction or lost value. Balancing UX and business requires structured collaboration and evidence-based decisions. Removing low-value fields while retaining essential ones improves conversion and strategic outcomes. Question 952. The UX team proposes hiding advanced configuration settings behind a secondary menu to reduce cognitive load. The sales team argues these settings must remain visible to highlight product power to enterprise clients. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Prioritize user research or quick usability testing with target clients to validate whether advanced settings should be surfaced or hidden, then make a data-backed decision aligned with business goals. In my opinion, this is the best option because avoids subjective disputes, confirms real user expectations and enterprise needs, ensures design decisions support both usability and product positioning, better than guessing which side is right. When UX and business goals conflict, user validation offers clarity. Testing ensures the interface supports actual customer needs and business positioning. Question 953. A UX designer wants a clean, minimal login screen, but the business team wants several promotional banners shown on the same screen to increase campaign visibility. Development warns that too many banners slow load time. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Review performance impact. Prioritize the most relevant banner, test user response to banner placement, and deliver a minimal set that balances UX clarity with campaign goals. In my opinion, this is the best option because reduces clutter while supporting marketing needs, prevents performance degradation, uses prioritization to avoid overloading the screen. Better than adding all banners or none at all. Balancing UX and business means limiting content to what is impactful. Prioritization and performance considerations help deliver a better overall experience. Question 954. The product team wants to introduce mandatory onboarding questions to improve personalization, but UX argues mandatory steps increase drop-off. Data shows a recent rise in abandonment during onboarding. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Analyze onboarding drop-off metrics. Make only high-impact onboarding questions mandatory, and move the rest to optional post-onboarding settings. In my opinion, this is the best option because achieves personalization while reducing user burden, uses data to guide decisions, minimizes drop-off risk. Better than all-or-nothing requirement enforcement. Not all questions need to be mandatory. Selecting only essential ones creates value without harming onboarding completion rates. Question 955. The business team wants to add a third-party chat widget that helps with upselling. UX argues that it blocks key UI elements on mobile screens. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Work with UX and business to reposition or conditionally display the widget, e.g. only after certain user actions, ensuring it does not obstruct core functionality while still supporting upsell opportunities. In my opinion, this is the best option because supports business revenue goals, protects mobile usability, uses smart placement rules for minimal intrusiveness, better than enabling or disabling the widget completely. Conditional display and smart repositioning let you support business upsell goals without harming the mobile user journey. Question 956. Product wants to add required promotional videos to the homepage to improve brand recognition. UX warns that autoplaying video increases bounce rates. Analytics confirms the bounce rate is already higher than average. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Show the promotional video as optional, non-autoplay content with a clear play button while measuring its impact through A/B testing. In my opinion, this is the best option because avoids autoplay issues that harm UX metrics, still offers users access to promotional content, uses data-driven A/B comparison to validate effectiveness, better than forcing or removing video entirely. A/B testing allows evidence-based design choices. Offering video as optional content supports branding without harming user experience. Question 957. The sales team wants to auto-show a lengthy pricing comparison table on the product page. UX warns that the table pushes critical content below the fold, reducing conversions. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Prioritize showing a simplified pricing summary with a toggle for the full comparison table, ensuring both clarity and sales messaging needs. In my opinion, this is the best option because preserves key above-the-fold content, supports sales needs with access to full details, reduces cognitive overload while improving discoverability. Better than choosing one extreme, full table or no table. A progressive disclosure design meets both UX simplicity and business information needs. It improves readability without hiding essential details. Question 958. Product wants to show a pop-up offering a discount code after 10 seconds. UX argues that pop-ups frustrate users and reduce task completion. Business argues it improves conversions. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Implement a behavior-based pop-up trigger, e.g. exit intent or long inactivity, instead of time-based, and validate effectiveness via A/B testing. In my opinion, this is the best option because reduces user irritation with intrusive timing, retains potential conversion lift. A/B testing confirms whether behavior-based triggers outperform. Better than time-triggered annoyance or no pop-up at all. Behavior-triggered pop-ups offer a middle ground, activating only when users show hesitation or exit behavior, improving conversions without harming UX. Question 959. UX wants to remove several data fields in a registration form for simplicity. The business team argues those fields help sales qualify leads. The sales team escalates to leadership. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Categorize fields into mandatory, optional, and collect later, keeping only essential fields in the registration form and shifting secondary fields to a post-registration profile completion flow. In my opinion, this is the best option because minimizes initial friction for users, still collects important sales data later, improves lead quality without sacrificing conversions. Better than stuffing everything into the first form, splitting data collection across stages offers simplicity up front while still meeting business insight needs. It's a proven approach to balancing both priorities. Question 960. Analytics shows users frequently abandon the cart after seeing shipping costs. UX proposes showing estimated shipping earlier in the product page, but business fears this may reduce product impressions. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Test showing estimated shipping costs in a collapsible section on product pages, ensuring visibility to interested users while preserving product-first layout. In my opinion, this is the best option because addresses UX pain by increasing transparency, maintains business-driven product visibility, lets users voluntarily access cost info early, better than hiding or aggressively showing cost information. Transparency about costs improves trust and reduces drop-offs. A collapsible design preserves product focus while supporting informed user decisions. Question 961. A senior sales leader wants to add a mandatory phone number field to the sign-up form to support lead qualification. Meanwhile, the UX lead insists this will decrease sign-up conversion, citing previous data. Both demand their version be implemented immediately. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Facilitate a data-driven discussion using past conversion metrics, agree on making the field optional or deferring some questions to post-sign-up, and align both stakeholders on a shared compromise. In my opinion, this is the best option because uses evidence rather than opinions to resolve the conflict, balances business lead quality needs with UX conversion optimization, creates a solution acceptable to both parties, better than picking one stakeholder's preference and creating friction. Balancing conflicting requirements requires objective data, structured discussions, and compromise. This ensures alignment without alienating any stakeholder group. Question 962. The compliance team wants detailed consent pop-ups for every data collection action. Marketing argues excessive pop-ups will frustrate users and hurt engagement. Both teams refuse to compromise. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Work with both teams to classify which data actions legally require explicit consent and which only need passive disclosure, designing a consolidated consent experience that meets compliance while reducing pop-up fatigue. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures regulatory adherence, reduces unnecessary user interruptions, creates a balanced, consolidated consent model, better than implementing every pop-up or removing them entirely. Conflicts between compliance and marketing require thoughtful consolidation, ensuring legal safety without overwhelming users. Question 963. Engineering wants to delay a requested feature because the current sprint is already full. The customer success team says the feature is urgent to prevent churn from an important client. Both see their priorities as critical. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Perform a quick impact assessment to quantify customer risk and development effort, then negotiate priority adjustments or explicitly move lower value items out of the sprint with stakeholder alignment. In my opinion, this is the best option because considers both technical capacity and customer risk, enables informed reprioritization, avoids overcommitting engineering, better than blindly inserting urgent items into the sprint. Balancing engineering constraints with customer urgency requires trade-off decisions rooted in effort versus value. Facilitated reprioritization protects both outcomes. Question 964. The UX team wants to simplify navigation by merging two menus, but the operations team insists on keeping them separate for easier internal reporting. The conflict is delaying the redesign. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Analyze both navigation usability and reporting needs. Work with operations to design a flexible tagging or metadata solution, allowing UX to merge menus without losing reporting clarity. In my opinion, this is the best option because it preserves UX simplicity, supports back-end reporting accuracy, avoids forcing a UI compromise for internal needs, better than letting reporting dictate front-end design. Decoupling UX design from reporting structures through metadata or tagging avoids unnecessary UI complexity and resolves stakeholder conflict effectively. Question 965. Your platform team wants to defer a feature because it requires heavy infrastructure investment, but the marketing team wants the feature immediately for an upcoming campaign. The deadline is 6 weeks away. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Evaluate the infrastructure effort, explore whether a lightweight MVP version can support the campaign, and negotiate scope to deliver essential functionality while planning full infrastructure work later. In my opinion, this is the best option because balances technical feasibility with marketing urgency, reduces infrastructure strain through an MVP approach, maintains campaign timelines without overcommitting, better than promising full delivery prematurely. MVP scoping helps reconcile heavy tech constraints with business deadlines. It prevents unnecessary infrastructure overload while supporting critical campaigns. Question 966. The customer support team requests a new quick refund button to reduce call time, but finance strongly opposes it due to the risk of unverified refunds. Both teams argue their concerns are business critical. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Work with both teams to define controlled refund rules, such as limited refund eligibility, additional checks, or permission levels, so support can reduce handling time without violating financial controls. In my opinion, this is the best option because respects finance's control requirements, improves support team efficiency, introduces guardrails instead of rejecting the idea fully. Better than enabling or rejecting the feature outright. Balanced rules, restricted permissions, and controlled workflows resolve conflicts between operational speed and financial safeguards effectively. Question 967. Two product managers request conflicting sorting logic for the same search results page. One wants results sorted by popularity, the other by recency. Both claim their customers demand it. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Analyze user segments, validate customer needs through analytics, and agree on a default sort order with an optional user-selectable toggle between popularity and recency. In my opinion, this is the best option because accommodates both user groups without forcing one preference, uses data to decide a default, improves usability with a toggle. Better than choosing one PM's preference blindly. A hybrid solution with user toggles is often ideal when different segments prefer different ranking models and analytics informs the default. Question 968. The CEO wants a highly visible dashboard panel showing vanity metrics, e.g. total signups, but the analytics team wants the dashboard to highlight actionable metrics, e.g. active users. Both argue passionately. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Design the dashboard with prioritized actionable metrics, but include a collapsible or secondary section featuring CEO-requested vanity metrics, ensuring clarity without compromising focus. In my opinion, this is the best option because preserves analytical integrity, addresses CEO's visibility needs, keeps core dashboard focused on insights, better than prioritizing vanity metrics or removing them completely. Balancing leadership visibility and analytical focus requires thoughtful layout, not an either-or choice. A layered hierarchy protects insights while meeting stakeholder expectations. Question 969. Engineering wants to implement an API change that simplifies internal logic, but the integrations team objects because it will break existing client implementations. Both claim their needs are urgent. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Work with both teams to design a backward-compatible solution or versioned API approach that allows engineering improvements without disrupting external clients. In my opinion, this is the best option because supports technical modernization, protects client integrations from breaking, balances speed with stability, better than forcing one side's needs at the expense of the other. Backward compatibility resolves conflicts by enabling engineering evolution while maintaining client stability, critical in enterprise integrations. Question 970. A regional business unit wants a custom UI to match local cultural norms, while the global design team insists on a uniform UI for consistency. Both stress that their version is non-negotiable. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Evaluate which UI elements truly require localization and design a flexible global template that allows controlled regional variations while preserving overall brand consistency. In my opinion, this is the best option because supports necessary regional customization, maintains global brand identity, reduces conflict through a hybrid standard, better than enforcing strict uniformity or complete fragmentation. Conflicts between global and regional needs are best solved through controlled flexibility, local adaptations within a shared global framework. Question 971. A feature was requested by a senior executive based on competitor analysis. However, the product analytics team shows that only 3% of your users would benefit from it. Engineering says it will take considerable effort. You notice that the feature doesn't clearly tie into the product's core value proposition. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Present data on user value, effort, and strategic alignment to the executive, and collaboratively decide whether the feature should be deprioritized, rescoped for higher value, or validated through a small experiment first. In my opinion, this is the best option because ensures decisions are grounded in user value and strategy, opens space for informed prioritization instead of blind compliance, prevents wasted engineering effort on low-value features. better than rejecting the idea outright or implementing it blindly. Value alignment requires transparent discussion backed by data. Executives appreciate strategic framing when deciding where to invest effort. Question 972. Two business units want conflicting enhancements to the same workflow. However, your product vision prioritizes automation and user simplicity, and both proposed enhancements seem to add complexity. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Re-express the product vision to both units. Evaluate how their requests align with the long-term strategy, and co-create a simplified enhancement that meets essential needs without compromising the vision. In my opinion, this is the best option because recenters the discussion on strategy, not departmental preference, creates a shared understanding of what the product stands for, enables compromise that preserves vision and value, better than choosing the lesser of two misaligned asks. Strategic clarity helps stakeholders see beyond local preferences. Reconciling requests through vision alignment prevents deviation from long-term product value. Question 9973. A feature in development is consuming far more capacity than planned. User interviews reveal that the value it provides is marginal compared to simpler alternatives. What should you do next? Here's my answer and why. Pause development, reassess the feature's value versus cost, explore simpler alternatives with stakeholders, and commit only to the option that delivers clear user value. In my opinion, this is the best option because stop sunk cost fallacy, re-evaluates actual user value, promotes lean development practices, better than continuing a low-value, high-cost feature. Value alignment often requires reassessment. Pausing to consider user value prevents investment in low-impact features and promotes smarter prioritization. Question 974. A stakeholder wants a new reporting tab just in case someone needs it, but the product metrics show that similar unused reports already clutter the UI. Adding more may dilute product value. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Discuss usage data with stakeholders, validate the real need, and propose alternatives such as a custom report or integrating the need into existing dashboards. In my opinion, this is the best option because uses data to prevent unnecessary feature clutter, preserves product simplicity, offers alternatives that meet stakeholder needs without degrading UX, better than adding features based on hypothetical use. Validating real value and proposing thoughtful alternatives avoids UI clutter and strengthens stakeholder trust. Question 975. An influential stakeholder wants a feature that benefits a single large client. However, it would complicate the workflow for all other users. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Evaluate whether the feature can be implemented as a client-specific configuration or toggle, preserving workflow simplicity for the general user base while still serving the strategic client. In my opinion, this is the best option because protects overall product value, provides flexibility for high-value clients, avoids one-off customizations that degrade workflow simplicity, better than forcing a universal change for a niche use case. Value alignment requires balancing general usability with strategic client needs. Configuration-based solutions offer the best of both worlds. Question 976. Your team is pressured to implement a flashy feature demoed by a competitor. Product vision emphasizes solving core user problems, not chasing trends. Early user research suggests the competitor feature is rarely used in practice. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Share research findings with stakeholders, compare against product vision, and recommend focusing on higher value opportunities unless strong evidence emerges that the feature drives real user benefit. In my opinion, this is the best option because reinforces value-based decision-making, prevents chasing low-value competitive features, aligns team with long-term strategy, better than copying competitors without insight. Competitor features must be evaluated through the lens of user value and product vision. Data-backed decisions prevent waste and maintain product coherence. Question 77. Two teams propose different enhancements to improve user onboarding. One focuses on adding more educational content. The other suggests simplifying steps. Both believe their idea is more valuable. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Review onboarding analytics, run small experiments, A/B tests for both ideas, and prioritize whichever approach drives higher activation and retention metrics. In my opinion, this is the best option because uses data to guide alignment, prevents premature commitment to assumptions, supports an evidence-based roadmap, better than debating without user feedback. Experiments and metrics ensure enhancements drive real user value, not internal opinions. This is key to alignment across teams. Question 978. The design team wants to add animations to improve delight. Engineering argues this adds performance cost. The product vision focuses on speed and efficiency as core differentiators. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Reevaluate the animations against the product vision. Keep only lightweight animations that do not compromise performance, and deprioritize purely decorative ones. In my opinion, this is the best option because reinforces product vision clarity, supports controlled delight without harming performance, aligns design with strategic differentiation, better than accepting or rejecting animations wholesale. Aligning features with product vision ensures differentiated value. Controlled animations preserve UX delight without sacrificing performance. Question 979. Different departments push for enhancements based on their internal goals. Sales wants a lead capture widget, support wants new help features, and finance wants improved billing visibility. You have limited capacity this quarter. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Use the product strategy and OKRs to score each request by business impact and user value, then create a transparent priority list that all stakeholders agree on. In my opinion, this is the best option because aligns prioritization to strategic goals, creates transparent, objective decision-making, ensures resources go to the highest value work, better than reacting to the loudest voice. Using OKRs and value scoring aligns cross-department demands with product strategy. Transparency builds trust and reduces conflict. Question 980. A team requests a cosmetic UI enhancement to increase visual polish. However, your roadmap focuses on reliability improvements that users rated as most valuable in surveys. Stakeholders push the UI change because it makes demos look better. What should you do? Here's my answer and why. Share user data, emphasizing reliability as the top value driver. Recommend postponing cosmetic changes and commit to revisiting UI enhancements after reliability KPIs improve. In my opinion, this is the best option because aligns decisions to customer-validated value, ensures resources focus on what matters most, demonstrates transparent and strategic prioritization, better than prioritizing demo aesthetics over actual user needs. User-driven prioritization ensures alignment with product value. Communicating clearly and committing to revisit enhancements protects trust and focus.